All right, Jeff, let's talk some college football. We have covered Temple for years. We went and watched their practice a couple years ago, had different players on. We get a chance to have the new Temple head coach, Coach Keeler, on today. Coach, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be back, and I look at this place through a very unique lens because I played against Temple and got recruited by the legendary Wayne Harding. Unfortunately, in my recruitment, he spent a lot of time talking about golf, and I kind of figured that wasn't a good sign, and I found out they had filled up, and so ended up at University of Delaware and had a great career there, and still bleed blue and gold. But yeah, I knew about Temple from my high school days, and then as a collegiate player, I got a chance to play against them. And the first two times we played, it was not favorable for the Blue Hens. And I remember, those physical Temple teams, and they were Temple tough even back then. So
Talk to us about, what drew you to this opportunity. You've had lots of steps along your journey. We'll go into your career, but what said now's the time to come back and this is the place to be?
yeah, it's a combination of a couple of things. First thing was, my athletic director at Sam Houston coming to me and said, I think it's time for you to go. And usually that's, an interesting conversation. But he was like, listen, we're not going to be able to give you the resources that you deserve. And, he's going to retire. And so some jobs were opening up, like Rice, his alma mater, and Southern Miss and Temple and some other jobs like that. So I went home after that conversation. I said to my wife, I said, yeah, I think it's time that we really take a good hard look at this. And then, Temple, because I'm not a guy who looks for that next job. I'm just, I fall in love with my kids. Just immerse myself in the situation. And I'm not that guy looking for, what's going to be next for me. And, when I had conversations with some other schools, I looked at the infrastructure that Temple had, and it was easily the best. There's a lot to sell here. And the other thing was, I know Matt Rule, I know Al Golden, I know what they did. There was greatness here at one time. I talk about, we have a camp coming up, and one of the things I'll talk about is the 198 NFL players that have gone through it. And I'll talk about the 81 draft choices and the 4 first round draft choices and the Heisman Trophy runner up. And the fact since 2016, we have the most players in the NFL of all G5 schools. In fact, 30% of the Power 4 schools. And the fact that in 2015, we beat Penn State. And game day came in front of 70,000 and almost beat nationally ranked Notre Dame. There's been greatness here, and we can get that greatness back. And I really firmly believe that, or I want to take in this job.
When you talk about history, history also helps with the future. Your own history is being a player who, congratulations, was inducted into the University of Delaware Sports Hall of Fame last year.
Mm-hmm.
You played for a great coach,
Yep.
Tubby Raymond. His son Dave is a good friend of the show. Um, what was it like to play for Tubby Raymond, and when did you decide that someday coaching was going to be for you, and did he have an impact on that?
Oh, absolutely. So first of all, my father was the guy who ran every single sports team in the town in Emmaus, baseball, basketball, football, they all went through dad. And I remember at his funeral, a number of those young men who were children at the time came to, the funeral. And one of the guys grabbed me and said, you don't know this. My dad was an alcoholic, and your dad would come pick me up to go to practice. And like he changed my life. And so like those kind of moments that you hear things, really affect you. And then again, playing for a legendary coach, people talk about the fact that Tubby won 300 games and 3 national championships. And he and Ted Kempsky invented this wing T offense. Yeah, but I think his greatest accomplishment was the culture. There was a culture there. There was a culture that you were proud to be a Blue Hen. There was a culture that you played for the guys that played before you. And there was a tremendous responsibility. And that's what he brought. He brought that every single day you understood that there was a history there. And so, Yeah, he definitely was one of the key factors of me going into coaching. And I am, the culture guy in terms of like this place. I will not call a single play offensively. Now, will I get on there and say, hey, listen, it's 3rd and 5, and I'm going to give you 2 downs here? Absolutely. Um, why did determine if we're going to fake a punt or go for the, field goal versus, go for the touchdown? All those things, yes. But, I'm as much involved or more involved in player-player relationships, coach-coach relationships, and player-coach relationships. And I work really hard at our kids understanding when they come in this facility, this is family here, and I want them to feel comfortable with every single person in this building. So I work really hard at, I call it cross pollination, where the defensive coaches are doing things with the offensive players and vice versa. And it's worked for me. And when times have gotten tough, everyone realizes we're in this thing together, and they've been able to hang true. But yeah, there's a long-winded answer of saying yes. Tubby Raymond was a major influence in my career.
You're somebody who has had success at all levels that you've been at. But you've also been there through a change in college sports that's continuing to go on now. As somebody who cares about the kids and stays there and builds the culture, how much more challenging or different is it? And maybe it's not challenging. Maybe there's different opportunities for you in this era to build a culture for a team and build what you want.
Yeah. Well, I think building a culture is so critical because you want your players, because there's opportunities out there. And what we found at Sam Houston was our guys were willing to give us a hometown discount because they didn't want to leave. They loved the locker room, the camaraderie. 2023, we went 3-9 in our transition year. And we played BYU, Air Force, and Houston back to back to back. Probably not the greatest way to start off your transition.
You're questioning the
Um,
scheduling at that point.
yeah, yeah. So, but what I found is that like if the guys believe that like you're in this thing together and there's a camaraderie in that locker room, they'll stay. And what happened after that season was we had one starter go in the portal. It's probably a record.
Wow.
And I was off a 3-9 team. And those kids were like, we're going to get this fixed. And we did not have a lot of NIL money / rev share to go around. And we go 10-3 and we, go to a bowl game and win the New Orleans Bowl. And so what I saw a lot of guys who gave hometown discounts because yeah, the money was important, but not as important as staying with their teammates. So that's one of my thought processes is that, we're really going to develop that culture for a number of reasons. I think it helps you win ball games, those close games, when things aren't going your way, able to bounce back, or you've had a tough string of games in a row that staying together. But also I think it helps keep together a team because guys want to stay. And the funny thing was I found that here when I got to Temple. I met with every player individually. Uh, my GM and I, it took us 4.5 days. And what I found was there was definitely this sense of we want to get this fixed. We love going to Temple. We believe in this program. And a lot of them made a pact that they were going to stay and get this thing fixed. And so they've been, I mean, the players, if I can talk about anything that's like, I don't say it's been a surprise, but has been like just something that has, been the neatest thing has been the way these players have responded. We had mat drills, and mat drills are brutal in February. They're brutal. And I have a leadership group that I call my advisory board in the off season. And I said, so tell me what you thought of mat drills. They said, oh, they were brutal. They were really hard, maybe the hardest thing we've ever done. They said, but two things. One was no one complained, no one bitched because they saw the results and they saw what we were doing. Our strength coach is phenomenal. And the second thing is, coach, we didn't stand at that door 5 minutes of 6 to see who was going to be late. We were all 15 minutes early. And it's just sort of like I said, they could have gone one or two directions and they decided like they were going to get this fixed. And so I have some really good leadership and we've come together very quickly as a organization, as a team. And we have a chance. We really do. I think we have a chance this year.
You've been around for long enough to see this ever changing evolution of college sports. You talked about having a GM, a general
Yeah.
manager. What is it like now to go through the latest evolution? Obviously, you can't even, I can't wrap my head around what's just happened in the last week, and it
Yep.
changes so fast. How, as you as a coach, slow it down in your own mind so that you can focus on the two things that are part of my next question, which is dealing with football camps, which you're now dealing with, and also recruiting?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I saw the opportunity for a general manager 3 years ago. I was probably one of the first, people that had a general manager because I saw that this was moving in a direction where we're going to probably have agents, and we're going to have someone that's going to keep track of all the moving parts, like how much are you paying a player, and what's a good model to use in terms of a starting left tackle versus a starting wide receiver versus a starting corner versus a starting, you know, and then are you going to try giving all your players something, which is something we do? In the revenue share world, our mindset is we give all the players something. As long as they're going to class and doing all the right things and they're great teammates, our thought process is that it's okay that guys are getting more because they're, playing more and they're starters, but at least I'm getting something. I'm part of this whole thing. So yeah, so I think having a general manager um, sort of takes some of that away from me in terms of dealing with agents and worrying about the structure of, but I okay everything eventually. It all comes through me. But if I've done anything really well in my career, I've encircled myself with really intelligent people and people who have really good skill sets that probably, you know, kind of contribute to my skill set. I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. I would prefer to have people have some ideas and some answers, and then yeah, then I have no problem making the final decision. Absolutely, but I want to know what the options are.
So, how are the camps going, and how is recruiting going for you?
Yeah, so this is a great time of year for us to get out and see players all across the country, and then also have players come to our camps and get a chance to work them out. And you can find out you can find out a lot about a player. Their body language, how they attack a drill, their skill set. Just get a chance to have conversations with them. And I always tell our guys in the recruiting process, it's not the ones you lose, it's the ones you take that don't fit into your locker room. So let's start developing relationships. And in the world of speed dating, because that's what the portal is, the portal speed dating. It really is. I mean, they're in for 24 hours. It's a lunch, it's a dinner, it's a breakfast, it's a strength coach, it's position coach, it's coordinator, it's head coach, you know. Um, in that world, you still have to do your due diligence. The locker room. I think the locker room is sacred, and so I tell our guys like really work hard at trying to develop relationships with these guys, and so who we're bringing in this locker room. The other thing is that we give a lot of ownership to our players. So like when they host, um, if they decide like this guy's not going to fit in, I won't take them. It's their locker room. And I think that gives them, and that rarely ever happens because we do such a good job of vetting before they get here. But I think that gives them a sense of they have some ownership in this whole thing.
That speed dating is hilarious. I've never heard it that, but it's so right. I mean, it's just so, and then they go on to the next one, and
Yeah.
so it's fascinating. I did want to ask you. Jeff was happy that I did not wear my Rutgers sweatshirt as a Rutgers grad. I was happy to see that you have Rutgers and Delaware on the schedule for home and homes. Now, my brother, the Temple grad, and I can talk trash to each other and go to a game. But talk to us about getting some of those kind of regional matchups,
Yeah.
set up again and building the program in that way in the area.
Yeah. And so like even beyond my time here, you know, when I looked at the schedule, I'm like the best fit for Temple is playing the Marylands, playing the Rutgers, playing the Delawares, playing the James Madisons, playing the Old Dominions, playing the Syracuse, playing the Massachusetts, playing the Connecticut's. I mean, as I jokingly said the one day, we play Penn State next year. And I said, so many Temple alums, work with Penn State alums. Now, usually the Temple alums are the bosses and owners, and the Penn State alums are working for them. But there's just so many, and so it just brings a sense of energy to the building and to the stadium. So we're working really hard at those opportunities where you can do some regional, scheduling. Like Oklahoma, great. We have Oklahoma come in, but really, I'd love to have Penn State or Pitt or Maryland or Rutgers versus having Oklahoma come in. Not because I don't want the challenge of Oklahoma. It's just I know the camaraderie and the crossover we have out there in this tri-state area of a lot of alums all working with each other. So I think, to boost our attendance and get enthusiasm, I think the regional scheduling is definitely the way to go.
You were one of the players, at least in the preseason, that got to wear an Eagles jersey back in the day, if I recall correctly.
Oh, yeah.
You are now going to walk into that stadium as the head coach of Temple football.
Yeah.
Do you ever sit there and look back at that kid from, I think it was 82 and 83, and now and say to that kid someday is
Yeah.
now, and I get to walk in, lead a college football team into that stadium.
Yeah, it was such a dream of mine to play for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll give you my quick rendition of this. I got invited to like a local camp. They had all the draft choices there, but they also had a bunch of local players there too. And so I was transitioning from linebacker down to safety because people thought I was a little too short to play linebacker at that next level. Even though Sam Mills did it, they just felt that, that was the advice I got. And so Fred Bruni, the defensive back coach, after the mini camp, said to me, "Listen, you did a nice job. I know you're transitioning right now. Like, if you want to, give a shot next year, give me a call." So what I heard was, "Son, you can play in the NFL. Just give it some more time." What he was saying was, "Hey, it was nice meeting you. Have a nice life." You hear what you want to hear. And so I went to Amherst College up in Massachusetts, took a year off of my life, and I just worked out and coached Division III football. And I called Fred up, and he didn't remember me. He didn't tell me that, but he said, "Yeah, come on down." And I ran like a 4.54, and I benched 380, and I did every drill like perfectly. And he was like, "I remember you. You're the Delaware kid." I'm like, "You remember me now?" I just took a year off from my life to do this. And they signed me that day. Actually, Carl Peterson signed me that day. And so I was with Coach Vermeil for 1 year. Then they decided they were going to bring me back because they didn't think they were going to draft anybody. And I'm watching the NFL draft, and first round's over. I'm just about to leave, but Eagles have the first pick in the second round. So I figured, I'll just see that pick and I'll go to the YMCA, get my workout in. And Wes Hopkins out of SMU. And so I'm like, wait a minute. So Mike Doherty, who was a film guy forever and was the guy filling out the cards at the time, I said to him when I came back, I said, "I thought we weren't taking a safety." He goes, "We weren't. I had it filled out for a center. I think it was Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay took him the pick before. And all of a sudden we're scrambling. And the next best available player was Wes Hopkins. Well, Wes was my roommate, and Wes was unbelievable. I mean, what a phenomenal football player. But he gets hurt during summer workouts, hamstring. And so now I'm taking every rep. And I actually played really well, about as good as I humanly possibly could play. And at the very end, they made that decision to keep Wes, which was not the wrong decision. I mean, guy ends up being an all-pro and defensive player of the year in the NFL. And so then, I moved on with my life. But yeah, those were great memories. And then having a chance to come back in. We just had a bunch of recruits on campus, and we went to the link, and it still gives you the goosebumps. And you walk in and you see Kevin Hart, picture, and you see Metallica, and you see, I think, Springsteen, and you see the Owls, and you see that place packed, and you realize, boy, it was a great history there. And then you see the Super Bowl, the championships and around there. And so when you walk in there, it's just a reminder that you're in a special place, and it's pretty cool that you get a chance to play there.
Yeah, you get to sell the city and the culture of the area as much as you do the culture of the team. I did want to ask you, when people go to games, we'll ask you about getting tickets in a minute. What's the identity of the team going to be? What's the brand of football you want to have on both offense and defensive sides of the ball?
Yeah. So when I hired my offensive coordinator, I said, listen, I said, just to be aware, Philadelphia is not the kind of town that when you need a half a yard, you're going to put five wide receivers on the field. This Temple Tough thing's a real thing. There's a mentality. Like you'll see a lot of our gear will have 10th and diamond. Like we're built on 10th and diamond. In fact, one of the things that I got from the NFL players, they said that they were so proud of being built here at 10th and diamond in our facility that they would go out with the coaches and they would just clean the neighborhood. And we do that like 2 or 3 times a week, where we have groups of guys just go out in the neighborhood and clean up. It's because we're going to be great neighbors. We're going to be part of this community, and that's something that I got from the guys who played before. I'm very much like I have no interest in coming in and saying this is how I do it. I have more of an interest like, okay, what's been successful? What things do you cherish about this place? And one of the things they cherish about it is that 10th and diamond mentality that, you know, we're hard nosed now. And fourth and half a yard, how can be five wide receivers on the field? And so my offensive coordinator, who does a great job running the football, former Montana State offensive coordinator, led the country in scoring last year. I think they had 3 rushers over 1,000 yards. He understood already, that was the mentality we had to have here.
I look at the schedule. Obviously, your first home game is against, I believe, against Howard. But as you look at the schedule, or at least when I look at the schedule, I saw homecoming is against Navy.
Yeah.
You get to play 2 of the academies. How exciting is this season for you, and how do we project to the community how exciting this season is going to be for Temple, from Howard to Navy to all the other games that you have this year?
Well, I think one of the things with the Navy game, which is so cool, is that there's actually a celebration about the Naval Academy. And so that's going to marry up very well. And I've had a chance to play them in the past. I never played West Point at West Point, but I've had a chance to play at the Naval Academy. I know they're going to bring a great crowd along with them. Yeah, and as I told the players here, like if we win, they will come, and that's what we have to do. We have to go out and put a great product on the field. And I also understand, the Philadelphia mentality. I mean, they're with you win or win now. They are with you win or win. And I love the story of, we won the national championship at Delaware in 2003. And in 2004, we're opening up with New Hampshire. And Chip Kelly's their offensive coordinator. And they're doing stuff that I'm asking the referees in the sideline, can they do this? They're running the option and they're throwing the ball out to the wide receiver. And this is back in 2004. So this is stuff that's never been seen before. And we knocked their starting quarterback out of the game. And their number 2 had transferred out. And their number 3 was hurt, and they had to put their number 4 in. And they beat us. We beat us on a field goal. And there was about 23,000 packed into that stadium. We just went 15-1. Just won the national championship. And they booed us off the field. And our players were shell shocked afterwards. And I said, this is Philadelphia. This is this area. I mean, they will support you win or win. And you got to appreciate their honesty. And so I know, like being at Delaware, that's how it was. It's going to be the same thing here. They are going to support us win or win. And so it's a great challenge. But again, I do believe, if we win, they will come.
And I think that's so important that you understand that mentality, because you have coaches that come into the area sometimes and they don't get that, or players
Yeah.
that come into the area and, why aren't they having my back all the time? And it's like they have your back. They
Yep.
just want you to do what they think you can do.
Exactly.
We want to go. We want others to go. How can people get tickets so that they can start to pack that stadium and you can get the culture in the stands like you are on the field?
Yeah. So single day sales are just starting now. So you're able to, find a game or 2 or 3 or 4 that you like and be able to purchase those tickets. And you can go on our Temple website and our athletic website. And, you're going to see a lot of stuff coming out here in the next couple of weeks, through our Twitter accounts and all those kind of things, pushing out the games. But yeah, we're excited. Nick Sirianni, got a chance to reach out to me just before the Super Bowl. And I thought that was pretty cool. It was like 3 days before the Super Bowl, and I had just predicted that the Eagles were going to win, which was I'm torn. I got my guys in Kansas City. Brett Veach worked for me at Delaware, and their wide receiver coach Joe Blademeyer played for me. And then Matt Nagy's a good friend, and so I got that. But then I also Tristan McCullum is one of their safeties. He played for me at Sam, and just me wearing the uniform, and so Nick calls just to welcome me back to the area. I said, Coach, I said, you got a game in 3 days. And I just went on social media and picked you. And he just wanted to talk to me about watching my team at Rowan play when his brother was at Mount Union. And then 6 years later, we played Mount Union at Mount Union. I think it might have been his only loss in his college career. And we broke the longest win streak in the history of college football out at Mount Union. So it's been fun. A lot of Fran Dunphy, a lot of just Philadelphia people have reached out to me, excited that I'm back in the area, and we're gonna get Temple up and going.
We can't wait to see what you build, and we can't wait to follow it and talk to you as it goes along. Thanks so much for giving us the time, and best of luck as the season gets moving.
All right, guys, go Owls.
Coach.